And welcome back to another edition of the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling. I am your host, Sean Meyers, joined by Jason Saputo, and Sean has a very special guest on this Father's Day. Sean, why don't you introduce us to your guest there to your right?
Yeah, to my right, my dad, Jason. He's a longtime wrestling fan and been watching it for about 40 years now. So he's gonna enlighten us with his knowledge and join in on the Father's Day fun.
So one thing that we're going to get started on here before we get into tonight's Money in the Bank pay-per-view with all the predictions for that, we're going to kind of rewind, go back to this past week, and we'll do sort of an abbreviated version of the Raw recap combined with the SmackDown summary here so that we can touch on the build to tonight's pay-per-view. Many people calling it one of the big four, big five pay-per-views. So with that being the case, you want to have good build to it. Personally, I think that Monday Night Raw was pretty good this past week. I thought that they had some pretty good matches and did enough to build some excitement. I thought SmackDown had a good card. Maybe some of the matches fell a little short, but overall, I think WWE did a good job building up to this week, and Raw had some really memorable moments, in my opinion. What did you guys think of the programming this week leading up to Money in the Bank tonight?
Well, they're definitely making Strowman look like the beast that he is. But does he win? Doesn't look like it. The build looks too obvious. Something's got to happen. They're gonna. I think the Money in the Bank is gonna go to a SmackDown guy, because you can put Strowman up against the Universal Champ without the briefcase. I don't think he needs it. So yeah, I think it's gonna go to one of the SmackDown guys.
Yeah, the build this week was fairly well done. I really enjoyed the way they did things. Again, Strowman looked like a beast, and it wasn't even just building from the ladder match in and of itself. They did a fantastic job in building everything else too, adding on to the Roman and Jinder feud, working Seth Rollins and Elias, giving Seth a little bit of edginess this past week was a mix-up. So, and the whole Ronda Nia thing it was about time we finally saw Ronda Rousey get a little physical in a WWE ring, besides at just WrestleMania. So I thought everything was pieced together well for a go-home show. It's one of the better ones they've had before a pay-per-view over the last few months.
So let's talk about Monday Night Raw in a little bit more detail. One thing that really I thought was memorable was the Fatal 4-Way that capped off Monday Night Raw with Braun Strowman, as we've alluded to, with Kevin Owens, Finn Balor, and Bobby Roode. The reason why they put those four together, those are the four representatives for Raw, of course, in the Money in the Bank ladders match. So they threw them in there in a main event, and ultimately it did serve to make Braun Strowman look like even more of a beast. Basically, he overcame the other three teaming up on him and ultimately got the victory in the end after being debilitated briefly, was able to come back and finish it off. And as you see on the screen right now, Kevin Owens set him up on the announcer's table, actually did a splash off of the top of the ladder. So a little prelude maybe of what could come tonight with some high spots in the Money in the Bank ladder match. Any concern that you maybe give away a little bit when you have a spot like that, or does that sort of serve to whet the appetite of the audience when you have Kevin Owens jumping off the top of the ladder through a table onto Braun Strowman?
I think it kind of adds to the feel. You don't want them to do too much, but I mean you're gonna see spots with guys jumping off the ladder tonight, but it gets you more excited the fact that they brought the ladders into play. And that was only for the 8 guys that are going to be in this match, and they did a darn good job working that spot and getting the fans into it. And I think it's only going to get better. I think you have enough guys in this Money in the Bank ladder match on the Raw side. Braun, while he is a humongous guy, he has that natural athleticism. Kevin Owens, again, for a shorter, bigger guy, he has athleticism. Finn Balor's an absolute freak, and Bobby Roode is the one question mark, I think, in this match for the Monday Night Raw superstars, just because we haven't seen him in this style of a match. We don't know what he's capable of doing in this style of a match. So he's the one outlier right now, which is why I think he's the one that nobody is really looking at as a possibility to even come out on top of this one.
Does that go back to a failure of WWE to build him up as a credible threat? I mean, obviously you can't have maybe your 8 top guys in the entire company in this match because you have some other guys doing some other things like Seth Rollins, who we'll get to, and of course on SmackDown you have the world title match. But is he a guy that really should have been in this match all along? Because it doesn't seem like they built him as a credible threat, and that was further proven on Monday night, where he was sort of just an afterthought in that match.
I think they don't know what to do with Bobby Roode. The U.S. title reign that he had was short-lived. I expected a lot longer out of him. I think they made a mistake bringing him in as a face. They went by the reaction of his entrance music, I think, a little bit. Bobby Roode, going back to his time in TNA, Impact, whatever you want to call it this week, he's a natural heel. And he's kind of leaning that way, I think, right now.
Well, that's sort of with the teaming up between Finn and Kevin Owens and Bobby Roode. Obviously, Finn's going to still be a fan favorite, but I think they sort of teased a little bit heel tendencies with all that happening, and those guys also realizing that was probably their only chance to kind of nullify Braun Strowman, even though it didn't ultimately work.
But I think Triple H, I think, is definitely big on high on him. I think that may be one of the main reasons he's in this match. But yeah, he is definitely the wild card of the 4 from Raw that I honestly didn't expect to see in this match at this point. Just because, like you said, they haven't really built him the way I think that he should be built. I definitely think they need to build him as a heel, because I personally just don't like him as a face.
That could start tonight, though, too, the build with him as a heel. Something could happen where, I mean, if we're talking about fan favoritism here and guys in this match, if he was to some reason have something to do with, Finn Balor and a feud starting with Finn Balor, I think that would be a great start for him with a heel run.
Speaking of heels, there is no doubt that one of the top heels on Monday night is Elias. We've talked about him many times over the past few months, but he and Seth Rollins had an interesting twist in their feud this past Monday. Wasn't anything real physical, just a brief exchange in the ring when Elias came in, played his song for the week, but he also sort of showed off a new piece to his collection with a brand new guitar that supposedly was gifted to him by John Mayer. No surprise the outcome here. That guitar did not turn out safe and sound at the end of the night, as Seth Rollins gave it the stomp, bringing an end to its short run on WWE programming. But another little wrinkle that they add here to add some intrigue to this match between Seth Rollins and Elias. With a lot of build and several weeks going into a lot of these matches, this one hasn't had as much. I think it's just been 3 weeks now, starting with Elias smashing the regular guitar over the back of Seth, and then the following week Elias actually getting a pinfall victory over Rollins in a tag team. Now they do this one-on-one exchange in the ring. Seth smashes the guitar, Elias distraught. To me, this is a pretty good storyline, and that was a nice little addition to it, to add to it. Now you really know why Elias wants to get some revenge and get the IC title tonight, and finally you see Seth Rollins getting a little bit of redemption after getting a guitar smashed over his back. So I like that segment, and as always, when you have Elias on the mic, I think you're going to get some good stuff.
Yeah, and I love the way they built this feud too. Doing it with Elias starting with the guitar, just smashing it over Seth, and then building into it, Elias gets the pinfall on Seth in the tag team match the week prior, despite sadly teaming up with Jinder Mahal. And then last week, what I think they did this past Monday on Raw was really kind of leave it wide open as to who could possibly win this. I down the line though, I mean, we'll get to our picks when we get to the Money in the Bank segment, but I really like the way they set it up into making people wonder who's really going to come out on top, because very often the WWE has been known for having whoever is going to lose the match somehow pick up a pinfall, or they come out on top with doing something on the go home show. But they changed it up this week, and they had Seth Rollins stomping the guitar and getting in Elias's head. So it really, to my opinion, I think was the best possible way to keep the fan intrigue, thinking that there is a chance that Elias walks out with the title. But this isn't going to be a feud I see lasting just this pay-per-view. I think this is going to go up right before SummerSlam.
And one other thing, I'm always have a keen eye on the Elias segments. If you go back and watch it, two things stood out. First, Elias took a brutal bump on his back getting out of the ring. He is okay, luckily. Remnants of Shawn Michaels in the casket match against The Undertaker with his back, but Elias safe and sound, so he's going to be good to go tonight. The other thing is, he was cracking me up when Seth was teasing, and they really drew this out. Seth was teasing, smashing it for like 2-3 minutes. And Elias says, no, he's talking. And you could pick it up even though he didn't have a microphone. Just great stuff that just, those little things that he does just adds to the show that a lot of guys just don't have that natural instinct of. And that's something that I think he's really done a great job of. Being a lifelong wrestling fan, it kind of comes natural to him as opposed to some other people. Speaking of lifelong wrestling fans, we're going to close up talking about Raw with the Raw recap here with Ronda Rousey. And Sean alluded to her getting some physicality with Nia Jax. So the Ronda Rousey-Nia Jax segment, we finally see them kind of go to blows in the ring. Coach was mediating briefly. He did not last long in there. And ultimately, Nia succumbed to the armbar. There's questions whether or not Ronda would be able to get it on Nia Jax. Ultimately, she did. To your point, Sean, that you just made about Elias and Rollins, this is another one where I think it's going to be difficult to pick how this match turns out tonight. And they're teasing now that Ronda can get the submission, which instinctively leads me to believe she's not going to get the submission victory tonight, at least. So I don't know if I'm reading too much into that, but it sort of seems like that was a way to swerve maybe fans into believing that Ronda could get the submission victory tonight and then having a different outcome. Nonetheless, I think it was good to see some physicality, but I still, in general, am not a fan of this feud. I think that they probably could have gone a better way approaching it. But nonetheless, we're getting a match, and it seems like, if nothing else, the vast majority of the audience is into this match, and there'll be a great reaction, certainly.
My opinion of this feud, they're definitely going for the money with Rousey going up against the champ in her first singles match. My thought process on it when I first seen it was Natty cost Rousey the match to start an actual feud for Rousey to build with a veteran that can teach her in the ring. I don't think Rousey's ready for a championship in the WWE. I don't think the fans are ready to have Rousey as a champion in WWE. I'm not very high on Nia Jax either. She said during the interview between the two that she's been there for years toiling. She's, she's only, been there for a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, she got the call to the main roster, I think, in many regards prematurely. She really hadn't done a ton down in NXT, and she was sort of green at that point. And it sort of shows at times. She's very dominant and impressive at times, and other times she looks sloppy, and I think that could be a real concern with a person who's even greener than Ronda Rousey in this storyline and in this match. That's exactly what came to my mind, too.
Well, doesn't that just kind of take away from the match, though? Just because they're putting all their chips in this match with Ronda in her first singles match, and you're not putting her up against someone that exactly is pristine in the ring. You would rather see her in the ring with somebody like a Natty, like an Alexa Bliss, like a Sasha Banks, like a Bayley, somebody that has that capability of, in my mind, leading a match. I think that's what Ronda needed, and that's what worked at WrestleMania. Being with Triple H, Stephanie, and Kurt Angle, she was working with people who have been around for so long and know how to work a match, but didn't have to lead the match. She just had to follow. Well, really in this match, who do you see playing the leader and who's going to be the one following? I don't think either of them have that ability to lead a match.
The ref's going to call the match. It's even the way this started with the challenge by Nia outside of the WWE envelope per se was kind of odd. But yeah, I'm definitely skeptical about this match with two people that I don't see knowing how to call a match in the middle, unless it's very scripted beforehand. It's going to be interesting.
One thing, this sort of seems rushed in that there's been rumors that Ronda only has a year contract, and then seemingly that has been dispelled, and the indication is she has a multi-year deal. But this isn't a type of decision when you know a person's only going to be around for a short period of time that you do, and it seemed like for a while they did this route with John Cena, just one big match after another, and you're not really building to something. It seems like they're rushing Ronda into this, and I'm not sure why. If she is going to be around till at the minimum of WrestleMania, I think you could have done this match 3 months from now, maybe even at the Royal Rumble. I just don't see a reason for it now. But nonetheless, they've made that decision, and I think if nothing else, Monday maybe helped grow the interest in some of the casual fans' minds for this match. But I think certainly the audience is going to be into it, even if it's a bit premature. Let's jump over to SmackDown now. We'll keep it with the women's team for the SmackDown summary. The main event, it was a 10-woman tag. That can get a little hairy at times when you have 10 different participants involved, but it made sense in this regard. The 4 Money in the Bank participants from SmackDown, of course, you have Becky Lynch, you have Charlotte, Naomi, and for some reason, Lana. They were all on the same team. They went against the 4 women who thought they were kind of on the outside looking in. They were all heels, by the way, with the Iconics, Billie Kay, Peyton Royce, as well as the former members of Absolution, Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. And then they also added in the participants for the SmackDown Women's title match with Asuka, the challenger, joining the face team, if you will, and the champion Carmella on the heel team. So they get all 10 women in there, and I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe these are pretty much the only women that are doing wrestling right now on SmackDown. So they had all of them in there in the same match. And then you have this as the main event. So they're certainly putting a real emphasis both on the SmackDown women's title match as well as the women's Money in the Bank on that side. The problem I have with this, and Sean and I have talked about this over the past couple of months, you see how strong the one team looks with Charlotte, Becky Lynch, Naomi. It's just a star-studded group, and then you throw Asuka in there as well. And then you have the heels, for the most part, younger, less talented, in the ring, less experienced. Yeah, they have some good personalities and characters, but I think there's a complete imbalance between heel and face with the women on SmackDown, and certainly this match visually represented that pretty clearly in my mind. And there was no real doubt when you look on paper which team was the better one. Ultimately, the faces came out on top.
Yeah, but the one thing that SmackDown does that Raw doesn't is it gives opportunity, and they talk about that all the time, opportunity to build the talent. They put focus on the Iconics. You let them come out every week, do their little awkward shtick.
Do you like that? I love Billie Kay and Peyton Royce, but it seems like intentionally bad. And I know it's supposed to grind on the fans, but I don't like intentionally bad promos every single week.
Yeah, their NXT stuff was better. They're forcing them to do stupid things on the main roster, and I don't like the way they're handling them. I think they're both really talented, and I think they both have a solid future. At least one of them can make a title run down the line. But I think the two that have benefited the most over this time have been Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. Because Mandy Rose has kind of taken like Sonya Deville's light a little bit, just because Sonya follows Mandy out with Mandy's entrance. And I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to make everyone see that SmackDown has the most loaded women's roster, because on the Raw side, you have the names, but you don't have a lot of women on that roster where you can say, I can see them being a future champion. On the SmackDown side, you're getting a taste of everybody, and you can honestly sit there and think, wow, anybody can be champion. I mean, Carmella is the champion. We have to sit there and think about that one.
Well, it is money.
Right now she is, but I like the way I like that they got everybody involved, but like you said, it can become a hairy situation, and the heel to face ratio on SmackDown is so off right now, like you said, in the talent range, that it makes it a little less interesting, because it's so hard to believe that one of the heels on SmackDown in the women's division can pick up a win against the faces in the women's division.
Jason, I want to get your thoughts on two pretty big matches that were announced for SmackDown. I thought, in my opinion, at least one lived up to the billing with Daniel Bryan and Shelton Benjamin. One a little disappointing in Nakamura and Jeff Hardy, but with the Go Home show, it seemed like a lot of the focus was on just showcasing some of these great in-ring competitors, because Jeff Hardy and Shelton Benjamin really don't have any role for Money in the Bank, but they just wanted to put some good matches together, it seemed like, on SmackDown with those two being announced prior to the show.
Yeah, the Benjamin Bryan match was, Benjamin's, probably one of the more underrated superstars right now. I mean, granted, he's getting a little bit up there in age, but I mean, he has the Brock Lesnar background. I mean, he did some phenomenal things back in the day before he left the first time. That match was, I wish it would have lasted a little bit longer, maybe. I know that they only had 2 hours on SmackDown, so, time crunch. But honestly, it's a shame on me, but I did not see the second match.
Well, truthfully, if you think of what Nakamura's done over the past 3 months, you could pretty much anticipate. It was an okay match that I think when you look at it on paper, it should have been much better. And it had a screwy finish again with the low blow to Jeff Hardy. So they pretty much substituted Jeff Hardy in place of what AJ Styles has been doing for the past couple months. So it sort of facilitates the heat on Nakamura again with another cheap shot. But to me, it's another match where people are, that's a great match, and it gets people excited, and it gets the viewers, but it doesn't deliver. And that's sort of been, I think, the recurring theme with Nakamura over the past couple months. We'll see if that changes tonight. But to me, another shortcoming for what a lot of people have been looking forward to.
I just want them to let Nakamura run as a heel like he did in Japan. The whole low blow stuff, it was all right to start. It was a great way to begin his heel turn with what he did to AJ at WrestleMania. But we are now 2.5 months past WrestleMania, and the low blow is still the main focus of Shinsuke Nakamura as a heel. And I know you haven't watched New Japan. We watch New Japan, and his stuff as a heel in New Japan was absolutely fantastic. He is able to do so much as a heel, and everybody loved him when he came in, so they had to run him as a face, because not many people pushed the New Japan bill and understood what he was like over in New Japan. But they need to start giving him a little more creative control over his heel run. and allowing him to do what he did when he was over there.
And one thing that you brought up, Sean, that I think would be a concern here for Nakamura is if he does not win the title tonight, that feud has to end, I would think. If he does win the title, you probably extend it another month. However, when you have the low blow as the finish of a match with Jeff Hardy, not even in this storyline, are you getting to the point now where this is sort of part of Nakamura's gimmick going forward, even when he's done with AJ Styles? Is he going to be this guy, no speak English, low blow, or is there going to be more to it after this feud wraps up? Because when he's doing that against Jeff Hardy as well, that's a sign to me that maybe that's just going to be part of his gimmick for the foreseeable future.
Didn't I just say that?
He literally just said that before we started.
He walked out with his shirt on that says strong style, and I said, all he is a low blow now. They're definitely overemphasizing that and to the point of ridiculousness. I'm glad that they dropped the no speak English thing rather quickly. It was, he's talking English now again, but that was, it was bad. I don't know. Another one like the Bobby Roode thing. I don't think they know what to do with him. He's not one of their homegrown guys. It's hard. He wasn't, when he was a face, he wasn't exactly the most popular after the initial buzz. But they're not sure how to deal with him as the heel. So they're trying to do the stereotype heel with the no speak English.
Any foreign guy has to be a heel, right? I mean, that's as simple as that for WWE.
Well, here's the thing, though. And if WWE wants to start pushing into New Japan, which they're talking about, and trying to bring talent over from New Japan, you would think they would use Shinsuke as the building block as to a reason why you should come over from New Japan. He was one of their mega stars over there, and they were able to swindle him over. Now, if they want to continue this and go after members of the Bullet Club, go after Kenny Omega, go after, other talented guys over in New Japan, he should be the building block as to why these people would want to make the jump from New Japan to the WWE. Because you're not going to swindle guys like the Young Bucks, like Cody Rhodes to come back, like Will Ospreay, like Zack Sabre Jr., like Kenny Omega, like Kazuchika Okada. You can't bring those guys over if you're not going to show that people you've brought over already have a bright future and they don't know what to do with you.
Well, I'll give you a couple responses to that. And I think that's actually a good point for a future episode, maybe on the trending topics part where we really get into that, because that's a hot topic right now. But here's two counterpoints. First off, I think it's completely different for Japanese wrestlers or people over in Asia or even Europe as opposed to natural North American people who go overseas to hone their craft. AJ Styles is an example. He's been used tremendously by WWE. I don't think anyone can complain about how AJ Styles has been used by WWE. He's still not a great character, but he's been in a prominent storyline from the day he debuted. He's been probably a champion as much as anyone other than Brock Lesnar since he's come over as well. So he's been handled terrifically after coming back from New Japan. Nakamura is getting these marquee matches. He's had multiple title shots, including at SummerSlam and WrestleMania. So he's getting the big matches, but I agree that his character does not feel like a major superstar. And I think it's maybe a mix of them not knowing how to use him, combined with maybe his struggling to both the style and, obviously to the American language, the English language, I should say. But some guys that come over are terrific. Finn Balor's been okay, but AJ's been outstanding. I think Nakamura is sort of, you have to evaluate exactly what he's doing on his own merits, not based on anyone that comes over from New Japan is going to turn out like that. Because there's a lot of positive outcomes for guys that have come over.
Well, don't forget, though, AJ Styles also had the TNA background, ROH, stuff like that. So he had that North American style, which is why I think they eased in and just pushed him right into it, because AJ Styles didn't need to go to NXT to start out. And he's already, and has been for 15 years, one of the biggest names in wrestling.
Right. Well, I'm saying I think it can work. You could say the exact same about Kenny Omega or the Young Bucks, especially Omega, that those guys could do the exact same that AJ Styles is doing. So I don't think they should necessarily be deterred by what's happening with Nakamura. It was my point.
Don't mention the Young Bucks with him around. He's one of the only people I know in this world that can't stand the greatest tag team.
Well, listen, I'm with you. I'm not a fan. I think
they're overrated. They're cheap. They are cheap Hardy Boy imitations.
Yeah, the problem I have with them is they actually make it so that everyone else in the match with them and the matches that follow look bad. Just the way that they don't use logic in wrestling.
Okay, you can't do this anymore.
Have you seen the latest ROH with the Briscoe interview?
I have not.
Briscoes. They said
Sean is distraught right now.
Yeah, the Young Bucks are good at selling T-shirts.
Stop. All right, we're moving on. Stop.
Well, ironically, we are moving on because that's going to wrap up the Raw recap and the SmackDown summary here. I wanted to touch on what happened this past week, but upcoming next, we are going to get into our predictions for Money in the Bank tonight. We will go match by match, break it down, give our thoughts, and our final predictions on the outcome as well. So we're going to sign off here for the Raw recap and the SmackDown summary. We'll be back on the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling with Money in the Bank predictions. That's upcoming next. Stay tuned.